We must face this challenge together. I am ready to prove my worth.
The village lay under the golden sun, its clay huts standing in neat rows like silent witnesses to centuries of tradition. Palm trees swayed gently in the breeze, and children's laughter echoed from the dusty paths that wove between homes. Life here was simple, but it was not without its storms. Every face knew every secret, and every whisper could grow into a fire. At the heart of this village lived Naya, a woman known for her grace and beauty. Her skin glowed like polished bronze, her eyes sharp yet warm, and her hands bore the calluses of honest work. She moved with quiet dignity, and the people respected her not only as Abba's wife but as a woman who carried herself like a queen. She cooked, she worked the fields, she sang during rituals. To the outside world, Naya seemed complete, but inside, her heart was never still. Though she loved her husband deeply, shadows of doubt haunted her. Oba was a man of strength and charm, admired by many. Nia often wondered if admiration from other women might one day grow into something more. Pride and fear lived side by side in her chest, each whispering different stories. You are enough, and you will be replaced. It was during the season of harvest that Amara appeared more often. In the village square, she was younger, her steps light, her smile soft like morning dew. Her laughter carried easily in the air, and men often paused just to listen. The women noticed too, exchanging knowing glances when Amara passed. She wore her hair long, thick, and shining like midnight silk, braided with tiny beads that jingled when she moved. To many, Amara was harmless, a flower blooming where it was planted. But to Nia, she became a thorn pressing deeper each day. It began with small things, the way Oba greeted Amara kindly at the well, the way neighbors praised her beauty, the whispers that Amara would make a perfect bride if fate had chosen differently. At night, when the village quieted and only the drums of crickets filled the air, Naya lay awake. Every word replayed in her mind, every laugh between Amara and Oba, twisted into betrayal. She told herself Oba was loyal, that he belonged to her. Yet still, the fear grew. She saw in Amara not just another woman but a rival, a shadow creeping closer to her light. The village, as always, fueled the flames. Women whispered at the market stalls. Old men chuckled about Amara's charm. If beauty were a crown, one said, Amara would wear it. These words spread like smoke, and soon Nia could not escape them. Her pride, once her strength, became her torment. Still, Amara showed no signs of rivalry. She greeted Nia with smiles, offered help with chores, even spoke with respect. But each act of kindness felt like salt on an open wound. To Nia, it seemed like mockery, as if Amara's innocence was a mask hiding deeper intentions. The festival season drew near, when music and dance filled the nights and beauty was celebrated with songs. Women braided their hair, wove bright cloth, and adorned themselves with beads. For Nia, this was usually a time of joy, but this year, it carried dread. She imagined Amara shining under the firelight, her beauty praised, her presence stealing the eyes of Oba and the village alike. And so, beneath the outward smile she wore each day, Nia's heart hardened. Pride told her she must defend her place. Fear told her she was already losing it. The seed of jealousy, small and quiet at first, now took root. What had begun as insecurity began to grow into something darker. In the warm glow of the village evening, no one saw the storm rising in Nia's heart. No one saw how her love was twisting into envy. But soon, her pride and fear would drive her to an act that would shake the village, test her marriage, and leave scars no beauty could hide. The days that followed carried a strange weight for Nia. The air in the village felt different, heavy with whispers she could not silence. Every corner of the market, every shaded doorway, seemed to echo with Amara's name. It began with glances. Nia would see Oba at the well, speaking to Amara, as others waited in line. His words were simple, polite greetings, nothing more, but to Nia, they carried hidden meaning. She watched the way his lips curved in laughter, the way his eyes softened when Amara answered. What to others seemed like harmless courtesy burned in Nia's chest, like fire. At home, Nia tried to mask her unease. She cooked, she cleaned, she smiled when Oba spoke, but behind her eyes, storms gathered. She studied every detail. If he came home late, if his smile lingered too long, if his mind seemed far away, love still bound her to him, but that love was now wrapped in chains of doubt. Amara, for her part, showed nothing but kindness. She would greet Nia warmly, sometimes even offering to help carry her baskets or fetch water. "Sister," she would say with genuine warmth, "you work too hard." Her words were innocent, but to Nia, they felt like thorns. Each act of kindness seemed like a performance, a way of showing the village that she could be everything Nia was and more. The villagers fed the fire without knowing it. "Amara has such a gentle heart," women whispered while pounding yam in their mortar. "She will make a fine wife one day." Others joked in the open square. If a man could marry twice, who would not take Amara as his second? Laughter followed, but to Naya, every laugh was a dagger. One evening, as drums beat in the distance and children chased each other through the dust, Naya overheard a group of young men talking. They spoke of Amara's beauty, how her hair shone like black silk, how her smile lit the night. Then one of them, with a teasing grin, said, "If Oba were not already married, who knows what choice he would make?" Nia's heart froze. She walked away quickly, her chest tight, her breath short. She wanted to scream, to silence the voices, but she held her tongue. Outwardly, she remained calm. Inwardly, rage twisted tighter. At night, sleep abandoned her. She lay awake, staring at the thatched roof above, listening to Abba's steady breathing beside her. She wanted to believe in his loyalty. She wanted to trust that his heart belonged only to her. But the whispers echoed in her mind, louder than his silence. What if they are right? What if beauty fades, and he chooses another? The more Naya thought, the more she saw betrayal where none existed. When Oba smiled at Amara, it was not kindness, it was desired. When villagers praised Amara, they were not admiring, they were warning Naya that her crown was slipping. Every laugh, every word, every glance became proof that she was losing. Yet her love for Oba still pulled at her heart. She remembered their wedding, the promises made under the eyes of the ancestors, the joy of their union. That love whispered for her to be patient, to hold fast. But jealousy's voice was louder, poisoning her thoughts. Amara's innocence only deepened the wound. If Amara had shown arrogance, if she had acted proud, perhaps Naya could have hated her openly. But her kindness left Nia with no shield. Instead of pushing Naya away, Amara's goodness drew her closer. It was unbearable. To be treated with respect by the very woman she feared, it made Nia feel small, as if even her rival pitied her. The village, blind to the storm inside Nia, continued its chatter. Soon, talk spread beyond simple admiration. People began to compare. "Naya is strong, but Amara has a gentler spirit. Amara's beauty is youthful, fresh, like morning." These words clung to Naya's heart like heavy stones. Each day, her pride weakened. Each night, her fear grew. She looked at herself in the reflection of water and wondered if her beauty was fading, if the sparkle in her eyes had dimmed. She imagined Oba's gaze wandering, his love slipping away like sand through fingers. Slowly, her mind began to twist toward vengeance. She told herself she was only protecting her marriage, defending her place. But deep down, she knew it was envy, raw and burning. She wanted Amara humbled, stripped of the charm that captured every gaze. And so, a thought began to take shape, dark, dangerous, but irresistible. What if she could silence the whispers? What if she could prove to the village that Amara was not untouchable, that beauty could be broken? This seed of anger grew roots in her heart. It whispered to her in the quiet hours. It told her that love must be defended, even if it meant cruelty. It promised her peace if only Amara could be made to fall. Naya did not yet know what she would do, but she knew this. She could no longer endure the rivalry. Something had to break, and she was ready to be the one to break it. The night of the festival drew near, and with it came songs, dances, and colors that lit the village like fire. Women braided their hair with beads that shone in the firelight. Men drummed rhythms that echoed against the clay walls. Children ran barefoot, chasing sparks from the fires. It was a time when beauty and pride filled the air. But for Naya, the festival was not a night of joy. It was a battlefield. She imagined Amara standing in the circle of dancers, her long braids swaying, her beauty drawing every gaze, including Aba's. That thought twisted in Nia's stomach like a blade. And so, her plan hardened. She would not allow Amara to shine brighter than her. She would not let the village crown another woman in their hearts. If Amara's beauty was her weapon, then Naya would strip it away. The evening before the festival, Naya approached Amara with a smile that hid her storm. "Sister," she said gently, "your hair is so lovely. Let me braid it for tomorrow. I will make it even more beautiful, so when you dance, all will admire you." Amara's eyes lit up with gratitude. She trusted Nia, saw her as an older sister, a woman to look up to. "Thank you." she replied softly. You are too kind. She did not see the shadows hiding behind Nia's smile. That night, Amara came to Nia's hut. The air was warm and quiet, filled with the smell of wood smoke and the soft hum of distant drums. She sat on a low stool, her long hair falling down her back like a river of black silk. Nia gathered the hair in her hands, her fingers trembling. For a moment, she almost hesitated. The strands felt soft, alive, a crown of innocence. But then she saw Oba in her mind's eye laughing with Amara, gazing at her beauty, and jealousy roared louder than mercy. Without warning, Nia's grip tightened. She reached for a sharp blade hidden by her side. Amara's smile faded. Sister, she whispered, confused. But before she could move, the blade hissed through the air. A thick lock of hair fell to the floor. Amara gasped, reaching up in shock. What are you doing? Her voice shook, her eyes wide with fear. Nia's face was hard, her eyes blazing. You think you can outshine me? You think you can steal what is mine? Her voice trembled with rage. She pressed Amara down with surprising strength and cut again. The strands fell like dead leaves, scattering across the floor. Amara struggled, tears streaming, but Nia's fury was unstoppable. She cut and cut until the long, beautiful braids were gone, until nothing but bare scalp remained. When it was over, the silence was heavy. Amara sat trembling, her hands clutching her shorn head. She felt stripped, naked, her pride stolen. Her sobs filled the hut, raw and broken. Nia stood above her, chest heaving, a twisted satisfaction curling in her heart. She looked at the floor, at the pile of braids, and whispered, Now let them praise you. Now let them call you beautiful. Amara rose slowly, her legs weak. She looked at Nia not with anger, but with heartbreak. Why? She whispered. I never wished you harm. I never tried to take what was yours. Her words struck Nia like stones, but pride hardened her heart. She turned away, refusing to meet Amara's eyes. Amara stumbled into the night, her bald head gleaming in the moonlight. Villagers saw her and froze. Gasps rose from the shadows. Children stopped their games. Women covered their mouths. Men shook their heads in disbelief. The sight spread quickly. Amara stripped of her hair, her dignity laid bare. By morning, the entire village knew. They gathered outside Nia's hut, murmuring in shock. How could she do this? One woman cried, Hair is the crown of a woman. Another said, She cut it away like she was cutting her soul. Amara hid herself at first, too ashamed to face their eyes, but whispers followed her wherever she went. Poor child, some said, what cruelty she suffered. Others shook their heads, pity in their voices. Her beauty is gone, yet look at her spirit, she still walks among us. Nia, meanwhile, tried to hold her head high. She told herself she had won, that Amara could no longer be a rival. But deep inside, unease began to stir. The whispers were not about Amara's shame alone. They were about her cruelty, her jealousy. Oba returned from the fields and heard the story from many lips. When he looked at Nia, his eyes were not filled with pride, but with something colder, disappointment, even sorrow. What have you done? He asked. Nia turned away, unable to answer. Amara, though broken, did not seek revenge. Instead, she knelt that night beneath the stars, her hands raised, her lips moving in silent prayer. She prayed for strength to endure, for courage to walk with dignity even when stripped bare. Tears ran down her face, but her spirit, though wounded, did not fall. The village could not look away. What had begun as one woman's jealousy now became the burden of them all. They would not let such an act pass without judgment. A storm was rising, and soon Nia would stand in the center of it. The festival dawned with heavy clouds pressing low upon the sky. Drums still beat, voices still sang, but beneath the rhythm there was unease. The villagers whispered among themselves, their eyes darting toward, to women, the proud wife who had wielded the blade, and the young rival left, bald beneath the stars. By midday, the whispers had swelled into a storm too loud to ignore. Elders called for a council at the center of the village, where judgments were spoken and truth was laid bare. The entire village gathered in a wide circle. Women with braided crowns stood side by side with men gripping walking sticks. Children clung to their mothers' skirts, their eyes wide with curiosity and fear. At the heart of the circle stood Nia and Amara, one with her head bowed in shame, the other with her chin lifted but her scalp bare, gleaming like polished stone beneath the harsh sun. The eldest of the council, a man with a beard white as river foam, raised his staff for silence. We are gathered, he said, his voice deep and steady, not for joy, but for justice. A grave act has been done. A woman's crown has been taken from her by force, and we must decide what this means for us all. Gasps rustled through the crowd. The air was thick with tension, every word vibrating like a drumbeat in their chests. Naya stepped forward first. Her voice shook, but she tried to hold it strong. "I am the wife of Oba," she said. "I have carried his children, stood by his side, and served this village. Yet I saw a younger woman, seeking his eyes, seeking his heart. I acted not from cruelty, but from fear. Fear of losing what was mine." Her words struck some with sympathy. A few nodded, whispering, "A wife must protect her place." But others frowned, muttering, "Jealousy is not justice. Fear does not excuse cruelty." Then Amara spoke. Her voice was quiet at first, but it carried across the circle. "I never sought to take what belonged to another. I honored Naya as a sister, and I cherished her kindness. But in one night, she stripped me of what I was given by God, the crown upon my head. She thought to take my beauty, but beauty is not hair. Beauty is the heart. And though my scalp is bare, my spirit still stands." Her words shook the air. Even the children grew still, sensing the weight of them. Women touched their own braids, suddenly aware of how fragile such pride could be. Men exchanged glances, uneasy at the cruelty revealed. Oba stepped into the circle last. His tall frame was rigid, his jaw tight. He looked first at Naya, then at Amara. "I did not ask for this. I never sought to pit one against the other. But what Naya has done shames me, not because she feared losing me, but because she forgot that love is not a cage. Love is trust. Love is dignity. What trust is left when one hand rises against another woman?" Naya's eyes burned with tears, but she clenched her fists. "Do you choose her? Then, do you abandon me, after all we have lived?" Abba's voice broke. "I do not abandon you, Naya, but I cannot close my eyes to the truth. You have wronged her, and in wronging her, you have wronged us all." The council murmured, their voices rising and falling like waves. Finally, the white-bearded elder struck his staff to the ground. "This village has always honored beauty, but beauty is not only in the hair or in the skin. Beauty lives in the heart, in the courage to stand even when shamed. Naya, your jealousy blinded you. Amara, though humiliated, you walked with dignity. And so the village must decide who carries the crown of honor now." The villagers began to chant not Naya's name, but Amara's, first in whispers, then louder, until it became a wave rolling over the circle. "Amara." Amara Nia's face crumpled as if the earth itself had cracked beneath her. She fell to her knees, her tears soaking the dust. All she had feared, all she had fought to prevent, now unfolded before her eyes. The elder lifted his staff again. "Then, it is decided. The bride we choose is the one whose spirit shines brighter than cruelty. Though her head is bare, her dignity is her crown. Today, the bald bride is chosen." The drums struck, not with joy, but with awe. The women ululated, their voices sharp and piercing. The men lifted their arms in approval. Children cheered, not understanding the depth of it, only sensing the power of the moment. Amara stood frozen, her hands trembling. She had not sought this, had not wished to rival another, yet now she was lifted high by the voices of her people. She closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of strength. Nia crawled forward, clutching the hem of the elder's robe. "Please," she begged, her voice breaking, "forgive me. I lost myself to fear. I could not see her as a sister. Do not cast me out." The elder placed a heavy hand upon her shoulder. "You are not cast out, Nia, but you must learn. Let this pain be your teacher. The village has chosen its bride, but your place as wife remains only if you choose humility over pride." Oba turned his face away, torn between pity and disappointment, and so the judgment was sealed. In one night, Amara's humiliation had transformed into honor, while Naya's triumph turned to ashes. The drums of the festival carried on into the night, but their rhythm was changed forever. No longer just the song of beauty, but a song of dignity. The bold bride danced in the circle, her bare scalp shining under the moonlight like a crown of stars, and the people danced with her, their voices rising, as if to say, "True beauty cannot be cut away." The festival fire burned low, its embers glowing like tired eyes. The village slept, but inside Nia's hut, there was no rest. She sat on the floor, her hands tangled in the pile of cut braids that had not yet been swept away. The strands mocked her, lifeless, a crown torn from another's head, but now heavy as chains around her own heart. Her mind replayed the voices of the villager. "Amara, their chant echoing until it hollowed her chest. The shame gnawed at her. She had thought to win honor, but all she had gained was the pity of her husband and the judgment of her people. Oba entered quietly, his tall shadow cast across the doorway. He looked at her but did not move closer. The distance between them felt like a river. "You have broken something, Naya," he said at last, his voice low, heavy. "Not only Amara's pride, but the trust we built." Her tears fell hot. "I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid you would see her beauty and forget me. I wanted to protect what was mine." Oba's face softened, but only slightly. "Love is not a thing to lock away, Naya. The tighter you hold it, the faster it slips through your fingers. You wounded her, and in doing so, you wounded me. You wounded yourself." He turned away, leaving her to the silence. Naya curled into herself, clutching the braids as though they could shield her from the emptiness that now filled her chest. Across the village, Amara sat alone by the dying festival fire. Her scalp gleamed beneath the moonlight, but now it no longer felt like a mark of shame. She touched it gently, as if it were a crown carved by fate. The chants of the villagers still rang in her ears, not as a triumph, but as a burden. She had not wished for Nia's downfall, nor for Oba's heart. Yet now the people lifted her high, naming her the bald bride, a symbol of dignity and resilience. The weight of it pressed upon her shoulders. An elder woman approached, her back bent with age, but her eyes sharp. She placed a cloth gently around Amara's bare head. "Child," she said softly, "do not see your baldness as loss. See it as truth. They chose you not because your head is bare, but because your spirit was not broken." Amara bowed her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But I never wanted this. I never wanted to be her rival." The elder cupped her face. "The world does not always ask us what we want. Sometimes it chooses us, and we must decide whether to carry the crown or cast it aside." Amara wept silently, the cloth warm against her scalp. Somewhere deep inside, strength was slowly kindling, though she did not yet recognize it as her own. The days after the judgment were heavy with silence. Villagers spoke in hushed tones when Naya passed, their eyes a mixture of pity and disapproval. Women shook their heads at her, while men avoided her gaze. Children whispered cruel songs that echoed what they had seen. The proud wife, the bald rival, the judgment of the elders. Naya bore it like stones tied to her back. Each whisper was a reminder that her jealousy had not destroyed Amara, it had destroyed herself. She tried to find comfort in Oba, but his presence was distant. He slept beside her, but his heart seemed far away. She feared that distance more than anything else, more even than the judgment of the village. One evening, when the sun bled into the horizon, Nia rose and walked barefoot across the village to Amara's hut. She stood outside, trembling, unsure if she had the right to enter. Inside, Amara was weaving mats with careful hands. She looked up, her eyes meeting Nia's. Silence stretched between them like a rope pulled tight. Finally, Nia sank to her knees. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Forgive me, sister. I cut away your hair, but it is I who am stripped bare. I thought to break you, but instead I broke myself." Amara's eyes filled with tears. She set aside the mat and rose, her steps slow and uncertain. She looked down at Nia, who was weeping openly, her forehead pressed against the earth. "You hurt me deeply," Amara said softly. "You shamed me before the village. 4 nights I thought I could never raise my head again." Nia sobbed harder. "I know, and I cannot undo it. But I beg you help me carry this shame, for it is too heavy alone." For a long moment, Amara said nothing. Then she reached down and touched Nia's hair. "Your jealousy cut my crown, but it did not cut my spirit. I will forgive you not because you deserve it, but because I will not let hatred rule me." Naya lifted her head slowly, her eyes swollen with tears. "You forgive me?" Amara nodded. "Yes, but forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. Walk humbly, Naya, and let your deeds mend what your hands have broken." The two women embraced awkward at first, but then with a rawness that came from wounds too deep to hide, their tears mingled, falling into the dust between them. That night, Oba saw them together and felt something shift inside him. Relief, sorrow, and hope tangled in his chest. Perhaps wounds could heal, though scars would remain. The village, too, began to change. Where once they had spoken only of beauty as braids and beads, now they spoke of beauty as courage and humility. The bald bride became a story told by the fireside, not just of jealousy, but of forgiveness and redemption. And though the crown of hair had been cut away, something greater had grown in its place, a truth that could not be severed. The rains returned to the village a week after the council's judgment. Heavy drops pounded the earth, washing dust from the thatched roofs and filling the clay pots left outside. The storm felt cleansing, as though the sky itself wished to sweep away the bitterness that had taken root among the people. Naya sat by her doorway, watching the rainfall blur the paths of the village. Her heart was raw but quieter now, no longer raging with jealousy. The whispers of the villagers still stung, but something deeper was stirring within her, a hunger for peace, for a chance to begin again. Oba stood not far away, repairing the fence with slow, steady hands. He had spoken little in recent days, but his silence no longer carried only anger. There was room now for healing, though neither of them knew how to reach for it. Amara, meanwhile, had become a figure both admired and pitied. Women visited her hut, bringing small gifts, beads, oil, or food as if to honor her strength. Children followed her in the fields, curious, touching her bare scalp with innocent fingers. What once marked her as shamed now marked her as blessed, a living reminder that dignity could not be stolen, not even by cruel hands. But Amara herself carried the weight carefully. She did not walk with pride but with humility. Each time she saw Nia, she lowered her eyes, knowing forgiveness had been given but not yet fully lived. One evening, the elders called for another gathering at the great fire. The entire village assembled, men, women, and children sitting in a wide circle, their faces glowing in the firelight. The eldest among them, his voice thick with age, stood and raised his hand for silence. "My people," he began, "our village has seen pain and pride, jealousy and shame, but we have also seen courage, humility, and the power of forgiveness. These are not things we must forget. They are things we must carry." His gaze rested on Amara, who sat tall, though her scalp still shone under the flames. Then he turned to Naya, who bowed her head, her hands trembling in her lap. "It is easy to tear another down," the elder continued. "It is harder to admit our wrongs and harder still to forgive. Tonight, we honor both the wrong that was confessed and the forgiveness that was granted, for without these, our village cannot stand." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Oba, seated between the two women, felt the words strike his heart like a drumbeat. He had loved Nia, and though his love was bruised, he knew now that it could heal if watered with truth. He looked at her, his eyes softening. At the elder's signal, two women rose and approached Amara with folded cloth. They placed it over her shoulders, tying it carefully so it draped like bridal attire. The crowd gasped, not in surprise this time, but in reverence. "You are the bald bride," the elder declared, "not because of what was taken, but because of what you refused to lose, your spirit. Let this be a story our children's children will know, that beauty lies not in hair or adornment, but in the strength of the heart." Amara's eyes filled with tears. She stood slowly, hands pressed against the cloth, her body trembling as the villagers clapped and sang around her. For the first time since her humiliation, she allowed herself to feel proud not of her baldness, but of her endurance. Nia wept openly in the shadows, her sobs hidden by the crowd's song. Yet in her tears was not envy this time, but release. The heavy chains of jealousy had fallen. In their place grew something new, humility, fragile but alive. When the singing ended, Naya rose and stepped forward, her knees shaking. The circle fell silent again as she moved closer to Amara. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to speak. "Before all of you, I say this: I wronged my sister. I cut away her hair, but it was my own soul I disfigured. I carried pride like a crown, and it poisoned me. Tonight, I lay it down. I ask for your forgiveness, yours, Amara, and yours, my people." The villagers murmured, moved by the sight of the once proud wife kneeling before the woman she had tried to destroy. Amara stepped forward. She lifted Naya gently to her feet, then took her hand. "Forgiveness is already given," she said softly, but firmly enough for all to hear, "and with it, freedom for both of us." The crowd erupted in cheers, some in tears, some clapping with joy. The fire roared higher as if the sky itself approved. That night, as the fire died and the people drifted home, Naya walked beside Amara for the first time without bitterness between them. The air was cool, and the earth smelled fresh from the rain. Oba followed quietly, his heart lighter than it had been since the storm began. The story of the bald bride spread beyond the village in the years that followed. Travelers carried it to neighboring lands, telling of a wife's jealousy, a woman's humiliation, and the people who chose spirit over pride. Children grew up hearing it by the fire, learning that beauty was not in braids, beads, or skin, but in the courage to endure and the grace to forgive. And though time would pass and hair would grow again, the legend remained etched, not in braids, but in hearts. Oba watched, his chest swelling with something he had not felt in weeks. He rose and placed a hand on each woman's shoulder, his voice steady. Let this be the beginning, not of rivalry, but of sisterhood, not of jealousy, but of strength. Let our house, and this village, be built again on trust. The people answered with a roar of agreement. Years passed, and the story of the bald bride lived far beyond the small village where it was born. Children who once sang cruel songs now grew to tell it with reverence, their voices soft with awe by the fireside. Travelers who passed through carried the tale to distant lands, until the name of Amara became a symbol, whispered wherever women gathered to braid hair, or men debated the weight of pride. In the village itself, life found a gentler rhythm. Nia, once proud and envied, walked humbly among her people. She no longer sought to outshine others but instead offered her hands in service, helping at harvest, weaving mats, or soothing crying children. Her scars did not fade, but they became part of her, reminders of a lesson carved in sorrow but redeemed in grace. Amara, her hair long since returned, sometimes chose to shave her head again, not as a mark of shame, but as a sign of strength. When the sun touched her bare scalp, it gleamed like polished bronze, and the villagers saw in her not just beauty but wisdom. And Oba, caught between two women once divided by jealousy, found peace in unity. His love no longer felt like a fragile possession, but a trust strengthened by trial. The elders would end the tale with a single line: hair may fall, but spirit does not break. Beauty fades, but truth endures. Thus, the bald bride lived on not just as a woman, but as a lesson for generations.